You don't ask, is the science right? Scientists don't know anything about anything. It looks... Neil, it looks like we're gonna have Eric Dubay. He's gonna Skype in from Thailand or wherever the fuck he is besides my homoerotic wrestling fantasies. We have video from space of the rotating spherical Earth. The Earth is round. Oh, you saw it on TV? That's awesome!
Well, and they also say that there's an International Space Station out there, and there's a Hubble telescope floating out there taking wonderful CGI Photoshop pictures that they send us back with their amazing 400-mile outer space internet connection to the Hubble Space Telescope. And now the internet space connection has gone to over 1 million miles with the new Rosetta mission. Have you seen that one? Mm-hmm. The CGI Photoshop pictures from that are just wonderful and well worth the billions of dollars we're spending to get them. Yeah, so the illusion is that there's a space station and satellites and telescopes just floating out there in infinite space. But you and I know that no matter how high you go, you come right back down. Whatever goes up must come down. The illusion is that at some point, if you go high enough, this gravity they claim exists that pulls you back down to the Earth, suddenly just you pop out of it and into the vacuum of space. Now, the vacuum of space can't exist because it's connected to the non-vacuum of the atmosphere in Earth and all the other supposed planets that exist. So a vacuum must be a closed system. But they claim space is a vacuum, and space is an open system. So it's philosophically impossible for space to be a vacuum.
Just stop, Eric, please. Just stop and think. You're communicating something to millions of people, and you're communicating something that doesn't make sense. You don't know anything about imagery. That is a big problem with a lot of people that watch Eric's YouTube videos. You know, they know a lot, but they don't know enough to know why it's wrong. Don't you want to talk to him? Wouldn't you love... I mean, I know you could gain a lot from sitting down with a guy like you, Eric, and realizing what you should realize what you're wrong about, and you will be checked every step of the way when you say something incorrect. I can teach you many things, from astrophysics to how to breakdance. You'll get a deeper appreciation of the universe through which we journey on this spaceship Earth. That's a t-shirt, Jamie. Get onto that.
The azimuthal equidistant projection map that the USGS actually uses is the flat Earth map. The UN logo is another example of it. The UN logo is actually a flat Earth map divided into 33 Masonic sections, by the way. But you can just type in flat Earth map on Google, and it's a disc shape. The North Pole is in the center. All the continents go out from there. And Antarctica, instead of being a ice continent on the bottom of the globe, actually surrounds us 360 degrees. And how far that ice goes outwards is unknown at this point. So there's a cover-up. That's what the Antarctic Treaty is all about. That's why you can't independently explore Antarctica. And when people like Jarl Anderhoy try to go down there, they get turned away at gunpoint and put in prison. So there's a big cover-up there in Antarctica as well. I don't know how far the ice goes, whether there's an edge, a barrier, a dome, or infinite plane. But what we do know is that the Earth and the water is completely flat, for as far as we can see and as far as we've measured. And the horizon is completely flat, as far up as we go. All amateur rockets and all amateur balloons sent up over 20 miles, as high as they can go. The horizon is flat all the way around, and it rises to the camera all the way up.
You have this direct inclination to always go towards a conspiracy.
Samuel Rowbotham did a bunch of experiments for over 30 years, wrote a bunch of books, and did lectures all over Europe talking about the flat Earth and exposing the heliocentric theory. And yeah, he wrote a book called Zetetic Astronomy. William Carpenter wrote a book called 100 Proofs the Earth is Not a Globe.
What year was that?
That was also late 1800s, around 1890s. The Robotham book was first published in the 1860s. He did experiments over water, seeing if water was convex or flat, used theodolites, telescopes, flags, spirit levels, sextants, used different instruments to record that the supposed curvature of a ball Earth, 25,000 miles in circumference, should be 8 inches per mile when you square the mile. So spherical trigonometry, as you drop off on a ball, the drop gets bigger and bigger as you go. So in, say, a 6-mile channel at the Bedford level where he did some experiments, depending on where you measure the curve from, that would make a 6-foot-high dip in a 6-foot-high peak and 6-foot dips on either end. Or if you measure from here, it would be 16 feet going down. And he did different experiments to show that there's not even an inch of curvature. So, I mean, and there's many experiments that have been done since then to prove that, you know, the curvature would be visible at sea level even. You go to the beach and you see totally flat beach horizon and you think, well, the Earth's just really big, I wouldn't be able to see it. But you can see from the left side of your periphery as far as you can go to the right side of your periphery as far as you can go, which is actually at least twice as far as the horizon is straight in front of you, which they tell you is the curve of the ball Earth. So that's another way you can know that it's not the curve of the ball Earth, because you can see right and left of you twice the distance, and that's not curving away. So how could half that distance supposedly be curving away?
Hamburger.
The sun is not 93 million miles away, as we're told, nor is the Earth a ball spinning around it. In fact, the Earth is a flat plane, and the sun is a disk that spins over and around the Earth in circles every day. Same with the moon. If you can imagine the yin-yang sign, the Chinese yin-yang symbol is actually a symbol representing the sun and the moon's path over the flat Earth. So imagine the yin-yang spiraling in a circle. The sun, you can't see the sun all over the Earth from every point at all times. And time zones are caused by its motion over the flat Earth, over and around it. So every 15-degree demarcation point around the circle is 1 hour, and it will do this 24 times a day. So time zones are caused by the sun moving over and around the Earth, not by the Earth spinning around the Earth spinning, as they say.
You know, you are correct.
Like the model they show, the ball Earth model with a crust on the outside and the outer mantle and the inner mantle and the outer core and the inner core. Guess what? They've only ever dug 8 miles down into the crust, so they don't even know what's beneath that. It took them almost 30 years to get there, and they couldn't get any further in the Russian Kola Ultra Deep, it's called. So it's all speculation as to these layers of the ball Earth they claim exist, and it's the inner layer of molten magnetic core, whatever they claim, creates the magnetism of the Earth. And so this is another funny thing. They claim that the core that we've never gotten to, so they can't be confirmed existed, causes a magnetic effect on the ball Earth, so that at one point at the top of the ball is a pole, and at the exact opposite point on the ball is an opposite magnetic pole. But this doesn't exist anywhere in nature. You can't find a sphere, and at one point on the magnetic sphere, it will cause another magnetic sphere to stick to it in that little point, and then and then push away from the opposite point. It doesn't exist like that. Only bar magnets can do that. What do exist, however, are ring magnets, and those are shaped just like the flat Earth model, where the pole is in the middle, and then the opposite pole is actually every point along the circumference. So the magnetic explanation, which a lot of people will bring up, well, how does magnetism work if we're on a flat Earth? You know, the accepted model is that it's this spinning molten magnet stuff in the core that creates this kind of north-south ball magnet, which doesn't actually exist anywhere in nature. Yet the ring magnet, which is it's in loudspeakers and other things, that's the flat Earth model, and that actually does exist. So that's an actual magnet instead of an imaginary magnet like they claim exists. And and we'll actually admit that I don't know what's under the flat Earth. We've only gone 8 miles down, and we haven't gotten to the bottom of the Pacific. All I know is, as far as we can tell, the water is completely flat, and the land is flat, other than hills, valleys, and mountains over a long period of space. There's no convex or concave curvature. It's totally flat. So when I tell you that I don't know, but NASA tells you they do know, NASA's just lying to you by telling you that they know what's beneath the Mariana Trench or what's beneath 8 miles down. I'm just sticking with the evidence. The Russian Kola Ultra Deep went 8 miles down, and they couldn't get any further. And the what's his name, Mike DeGRASSE, he went down in one of those deep submarine capsule things, and he found a whole nother layer of ocean underneath the ocean, which was super saline, and he couldn't go down in it with his submarine. He just bounced off of it, which is reminiscent of the Bible's Genesis first chapter, talking about dividing the waters from the waters with the firmament.
Yeah.
And this layer of ocean potentially could be, maybe that's what's under the Earth, so to speak, is this super saline layer of infinite or non-infinite ocean, and then the other oceans, and then the Earth is on top of that. And that's how the Bible and the Egyptian myth and a lot of creation myths say that, is that first there was the water, and then they pulled the land out from the water, and then out of the land came man and the animals.
I am sensitive to that. It's one of the greatest things about me.
Well, we're a plane, not a planet. So all they did was add a T to the end and everybody bought it. But in reality, Earth is the only physical plane, and everything above us is just a light. So there is no spherical terra firma ball planets like Mars, Jupiter, and all these things that NASA presents us with. The moon landing was fake, and it's done here on Earth. The Mars footage is fake, and then done here on Earth. All the CGI images you've ever seen of all these planets, you'll notice that there is no actual footage. Type in real planet footage or something along those lines in YouTube, and you'll not find a single real video of a planet. And when you look at planets through amateur telescopes, they just look like flat, circular disks of light, just like stars. And in fact, for thousands of years, they were called stars. They're called the wandering stars, as they differ from the fixed stars in their relative motions only. The fixed stars stay completely fixed together in their constellations day after day, year after year, millennia after millennia, which is another proof that we're not on a spinning ball going all around the galaxy like they tell us, because Polaris, the North Pole star, stays exactly where it is, right above us, and all the other stars rotate in a dome-like planetarium shape eastward in a 24-hour cycle all around us. And the wandering stars, so-called, because they kind of wander their own unique paths, but they're still in a general motion. They do a kind of a spirograph pattern around the sun. So, no, the sun, the moon, the stars, and the wandering stars that are now called planets are just lights. And they light up the night sky. They give us calendrical time. They divide not only the night from the day, but the years and the months, etc. The word month comes from moon month, and it's the cycle is the same with the female cycle as well. So there's a lot of parallels between, as above, so below. That's where astrology comes from as well. When you propagate the spinning ball Earth model, then suddenly astrology, which was an ancient science of consciousness known to our ancestors, suddenly becomes like some stupid superstition, because how could the position of the stars over us have any significance? But if we are the only plane in existence, and everything in the heavens truly does revolve around us, then that denotes a special importance to not only Earth, but to humans, the most intelligent of the intelligent designers' designs. If we're just, on the speck of God's fingernail in the corner of the universe, like NASA wants us to believe, then it's a very nihilistic, atheistic kind of view.
That's fascinating.
A planet doesn't look that much different than a star. They do have their own uniqueness. Some of them twinkle like a diamond, change all colors. Some of them look like an orb. Some of them look, like a lemon shape. Some of them look like a disco ball. There's a bunch of different things like that, but none of them look like spherical spinning ball planets like they show us in our textbooks or like NASA comes out with. They all just look like, even Saturn, they'll say, what about the rings of Saturn? Well, again, in NASA's photos, they clearly look like rings around a spherical planet. But when I look at Saturn, it just looks like kind of a halo of light extending out from a circle of light. Right. It doesn't necessarily look like a ring at all, and the ring, halo, whatever you want to call it, doesn't necessarily look like it's going around a three-dimensional spherical object. It just looks like a tiny dot of light. It's just a luminary. It really does not look like something you could set foot on, especially like Syria. Like I've taken videos with my P900 camera. It's this new camera that came out. It's got the best optical zoom of any camera, so you can zoom in on the stars, and you can see, very clearly something that's supposed to be trillions and trillions of miles away. I mean, I can see it pretty clearly with the 83 times zoom camera, and that's nothing. So, first of all, I don't think those things are trillions of miles away. And using secants and plane trigonometry, they figure to be just a few thousand miles away, just like the moon and the sun, not trillions upon trillions, as they're telling us.
Do you only ever watch your own channel, Eric? You don't know anything about imagery. You don't know anything about anything. Come on, you're just looking at it with the naked eye. You're coming at it with a confirmation bias. Like,
the word dome means that we have found that there's some sort of solid barrier out there beyond the Antarctic icing covering us, which we have not found. So I don't know that there's a dome. I don't know that there's a barrier, an edge, or if we live on an infinite plane. So I wouldn't say anything about a dome. All I know is that the Earth is flat and motionless, and they won't allow us to explore Antarctica, so we don't know how the flat, motionless Earth ends, whether there is an edge, a barrier like a dome, or if it's an infinite plane, or if there's other puddles beyond here. Or it's open to speculation right now because they won't let us independently explore it.
You are so right. You see, how can I even argue it? How can I even argue any possible points?
And of course, this is what I expected when I started breaking this flat Earth information. They're not just going to let me do this, they're going to bring in their gatekeepers, like Alex Jones and like the others. They've got smaller gatekeepers for the flat Earth that they've brought in to distort the message. And they give fake flat Earth arguments, hoping that you'll reach them before you reach someone like me. And then you'll hear their stupid arguments saying that gravity's real, but the flat Earth disk is constantly rising, and that's what causes us to, things to fall. They'll give explanations like this, which to any sound-thinking person will totally reject, and then they'll totally reject the entire flat Earth model based on these little bits of disinformation that are being given.
Okay, Stanky Thatch. Oh, God, I'm so hot, Neil. I have to resort to calling him a pussy.
The ball Earth model has a flaw as well, that they say that winter happens when the Earth is actually closest to the sun. They have the Earth going around the Earth going around the sun in an ellipse fashion, and so the points at which it's closest to us, we actually have winter in most places over the Earth, which is weird. And it also doesn't work in their gravity model, where they say that gravity is keeping things spinning in circles. Sometimes it keeps things spinning in ellipses if they want it to, so they change the shapes and stuff all the time. On the flat Earth model, as I said, the sun is going from tropic to tropic, solstice to solstice. So starting at the winter solstice, the sun is at the Tropic of Capricorn, and it's making a circular journey over and around the circular flat Earth, with the North Pole in the center and Antarctica, the circumferential barrier all around it. The Tropic of Capricorn is at 23.5 degrees south latitude. The equator is in the middle. So after 3 months of circling around in a corkscrew pattern, slowly getting narrower as you go, and slowing down as well, so it keeps the same 24-hour pattern in its circle, you pass the equator during the equinox, and then you go narrower and narrower circles to the summer solstice, which is at the Tropic of Cancer at 23.5 degrees north latitude. And then the next 6 months, it gets wider and wider circles as it makes a corkscrew journey back to the Tropic of Capricorn. So the moon has a similar journey that was a bit slower than the sun.
If the Earth was flat, Neil, if the Earth was flat, cats would have pushed everything off it by now.
And they don't let you go to Antarctica to see it either, though they claim it happens. If you go to timeanddate.com or something, during those times in which in the ball model Antarctica should be seeing 24-hour sunlight, they claim they are. But you can see dozens of videos on YouTube of the Arctic midnight sun, like you were saying, in Alaska and other places north of the Arctic Circle. You can see the sun for sometimes 72 plus, it depends where you are, you can see it for days and days without ever dropping below the horizon. The sun just kind of goes up and then comes down in a sine wave kind of arc around you, and it'll do that for days and never fall out of sight. But if you were on a spinning ball below 89 degrees north latitude, you'd have to be seeing through the ball to see to the sun for part of the spin. But you can actually see it down as far as like 65 degrees north latitude. So it's impossible that you could see this midnight sun effect in the Arctic on a ball. And though they claim it happens in Antarctica, you can't find any examples of it whatsoever. They have one video on YouTube of it, and it's a horrible 1-minute video of a bunch of cuts every couple seconds, cutting, and showing the sun, trying to make it look like the kind of the same effect as the Arctic one. But you can find legitimate Arctic ones with no cuts for days on end. People have taken the time lapse, so those ones are clearly real, and the ones that they claim happen in Antarctica that you'll never be able to verify are clearly fake.
Hey, Neil, have you heard people all over the globe think the Earth is flat? That's my favorite gag. I know you really like to appear with a comedian, so you appear funny, so I thought I'd bring a gag.
In the mid-1800s, a guy named Leon Foucault started swinging pendulums and putting little pins at the end, and he used a ball and socket joint so that the pendulum was able to swing in a circle, and claimed that that's the Earth moving underneath the pendulum. And nowadays in museums all over the world, this stupid trick is still being used, where they put a pendulum, and the modern day ones are computer run. They're not even like real pendulums, but an actual pendulum, and it would all be determined based on how you start the motion. There's no way to not give some slight lateral bias at the beginning of starting a pendulum in motion. And so sometimes the pendulums would swing way too fast, sometimes they'd swing too slow, sometimes they'd swing the opposite direction, sometimes they wouldn't swing at all. But these pendulums are being used all over the world now as proof that the Earth is spinning underneath them.
Eric, there's just too many things you don't believe in. I mean, do you believe in anything?
And that word belief is pretty interesting when you look at this, because you say, I believe that we're on a flat Earth, but in fact, I see that I'm on a flat Earth, and I feel that I'm on a motionless Earth, and I see that everything in the sky revolves around me. I also see that the sun and the moon are the same size. But I've been brainwashed to believe something very different from what I see. I've been brainwashed to believe that the completely flat horizon that I always see curves at some point. I've been brainwashed to believe that the motionless Earth that I feel beneath my feet is actually spinning at 1,000 miles per hour. I've also been brainwashed to believe that the stars, sun, and moon that clearly spin overhead are actually, some of them we're spinning around, and there's this big spiral motion of planets and galaxies all spiraling, as NASA has told us. They also tell us that the sun is a big ball of burning light, and it's 400 times further away and 400 times bigger than the moon. Yet when I look out in the sky, I can see them to be both the same size. So, in fact, what we believe nowadays is based on something contrary to our common sense and experience, and actually comes from philosophers like Aristotle giving us supposed proofs of a ball Earth, and NASA, Photoshop, CGI divisions giving us fake pictures, making us believe otherwise. But if we were just given to our own devices, everybody would be a flat earther, because that's how it is. It's flat, it's motionless, everything in the sky revolves around us. And that common sense perspective actually has been experimentally proven as well.
Eric, you're saying something that people have been proving for hundreds and hundreds of years. Right now, thousands of years. Fucks with my head, because it's terrifying when you're too stupid to know who is dumb, and that is often where I find myself when I'm watching these things.
When you go higher in altitude, you're able to see further along a flat plane, and that's all that's happening as you go higher. So the sun, when it's setting, is actually maintaining its altitude at about 3,000 miles above us, and it circles over and around the flat Earth. And so from your position, due to perspective, as it goes away from you, just like a row of street lamps, as they're going away from you, the one closest to you seems very high overhead, and then slowly dips down more and more to the horizon, or just like a long, narrow hallway where the floor rises up, the ceiling comes down, and the two walls come into a point right in the middle. That pyramid shape, that eye at the top of the pyramid, another reason for that symbol is that's the way that our eyes actually see. Our eye sees in a pyramid-type shape like that, and the sun setting down on the horizon like that is simply an element of perspective. And when it goes beyond the horizon, it's not setting beyond the curvature of a ball Earth. It's simply gone beyond the vanishing point of perspective from your point of view, which is what the horizon line is. It is not the curvature of the Earth, as you've been taught. You can think about it. If the limit of your perspective was the curvature of the Earth, and you saw, say, a ship disappearing over it, then you look to the left, the same amount of distance, and you look to the right, the same amount of distance. Well, there's no curvature there, but that's twice the distance as the ship in front of you that you think has disappeared beyond the curvature. And then to double check this, you can take out a pair of binoculars, and you'll see that that ship that disappeared beyond the horizon over the curvature of the Earth magically comes right back totally into view, hull and all. And that's because it's simply gone beyond your perspective, which you can bring back into view with technology or by gaining altitude, like by going up in a tower. So this is all just an element of perspective, and tricky Masonic magicians are trying to get you to think it's based on the curvature of the spinning ball Earth, when it's nothing but perspective.
Matter tells space how to curve. Space tells matter how to move. Let's sit here like as if we're the most intellectual two dudes on the earth. Get on your knees, Joe. Oh, Neil, you're giving me a clue. You're giving me a huge clue. That's a t-shirt, Jamie. Get onto that.
But you can prove that the light of the moon is totally different from the light of the sun. The effect it has on foods and plants is different. The actual temperature of the light is different. So if you're in the sun, of course, in the shade, it's cooler than in the sunlight. But in the moonlight, it's cooler in the moonlight than it is in the shade. So if you go in the moon shade, temperature goes up. So it couldn't possibly be reflected sunlight, otherwise it would be warm, just like the sunlight is warm. So it's casting its own light. The phases are a function of the moon itself, and it's provably a translucent flat object, not a opaque ball, as they claim the moon is. If the moon was a ball, first of all, you'd be able to see different faces from different areas on Earth. So if you're at the Arctic or the equator or the Antarctic, you should be seeing different features because you're looking at a different face of the moon from there. However, no matter where you are on Earth, you'll see exactly the same face, the same man on the moon, the same rabbit will always be there, but it'll be tilted 360 degrees at various inclinations because the moon actually turns like a wheel as it goes around us.
Eric, I gotta be honest, dude. I think you could flip me if we, spent a whole day together.
here you can see the sun slowly getting smaller and smaller as it gets further and further away, and it almost disappears into a pinprick before the light disappears. So sometimes you can see this happening where the sun is very big when it's overhead, and then as it sets, it clearly gets smaller and smaller due to perspective as it's getting further and further away from you. Now, in other videos, I'll show another one, as the sun gets closer to the horizon, you'll find it actually gets bigger. And so it depends on the amount of water that's in the atmosphere. So usually if it's a humid day or you're looking over the ocean, that's when you usually see the sun to be bigger, brighter, and magnified as it nears the horizon. In dry places, that's when you're going to see it shrink off into the distance. So you actually will see the sun do many different things. Sometimes you'll find it at its biggest point when it's directly overhead. Sometimes it's bigger on the horizon. Sometimes it's on the horizon and just a little pinprick. So it depends on various conditions, how it's magnified.
What are you talking about? I don't understand what you're talking about. This has been in my realm of knowledge possibilities for the last 3 years, and clearly I still haven't done 2 hours research to watch your first video, 200 Proofs. Earth is not a spinning ball. Sorry, Eric.
One of the ball Earth proofs they try to point to is they say in the northern hemisphere the moon is always right side up, and in the southern hemisphere it's upside down. And then they'll show you a picture of it right side up in the north and upside down in the south, and say, case closed, the Earth's a ball. But in fact, you can, and people on my forum have taken pictures, and time-lapse shows that the moon is actually rotating like it's a disk. Not like it's a sphere rotating, as they claim, but like a disk just rotating 360 degrees over the course of a day. It's like a wheel kind of rolling over and around the flat Earth. That's actually how ancients portrayed it in Egypt and other cultures. They had the sun and the moon as chariots, or drew them as wheels as they revolve over and around the Earth.
But, Eric, when you start thinking that the world is flat and dinosaurs aren't real and all this naughty shit that you believe, and you just jump into it, the problem is it discredits all these other things that you believe that might be real, because the other things that you believe might have some validity to them. Eric, you're talking about the Earth being flat. Thousands of scientists have looked into it. You think they're all wrong? That's so insane. You're so incredible, Neil. As a minor Mason, you really. That's really interesting, Joe. I have a responsibility, Eric, a duty. If I have a capacity to do so, to conserve the greater good, that I would be irresponsible if I did not. And that's how I think about it. And that's what motivates me, besides the Freemasonic pledges I've sworn. Neil, I gotta say, you're totally blowing my mind right now. Yeah, there's nothing I wouldn't do to, keep doing what I have to do so you don't kill me or my family or stop the pay packet. So yeah, I guess life sucks when you compromise for whatever reason. I guess I should have just went and lived on a hill somewhere.
I mean, here's a good question. Why don't pilots catch on to this fact? If the Earth was truly a sphere, 25,000 miles in circumference, curvating 8 inches per mile squared, a pilot who wanted to simply maintain their altitude at a typical cruising speed of 500 miles per hour would have to constantly dip their nose downwards and descend 2,777 feet over half a mile every minute. Otherwise, without this compensation, in an hour's time, the pilot would find themselves 166,666 feet, 31.5 miles higher than expected. You just end up flying off into outer space if you weren't constantly dipping your nose down to fly around the ball. And so, like I said, if at the typical cruising speed of most planes, you'd have to be descending half a mile every single minute. And this never happens. I've talked to pilots. Once you get to your cruising altitude, the artificial horizon maintains level. It don't touch the controls, just keeps on going. And so, I mean, the reason pilots don't figure, I'm sure some pilots figure it out, and then who are they going to tell? But I mean, they're just like everyone else. Everyone else is so brainwashed that they don't think of it. And if they do, I've even heard some explanations. They claim that, they say the atmosphere. They say the Earth is spinning over 1,000 miles per hour, and that the atmosphere is also dragged along with it. So then, if some pilot says, "Hey, why don't I have to course correct downwards all the time?" Their explanation is that this atmosphere that's being magically dragged with the spinning ball Earth also magically course corrects planes so that they stay at exactly the same altitude because they're in that atmosphere, that magical atmosphere that helps you curve around the ball Earth, man.
Eric, there are websites that can debunk it. You can just go there and they'll show you the maths. They're just YouTube videos, Eric. The science behind them is not verified by Neil and peer-reviewed journals.
Yeah, because once again, it's explaining away your common sense and your experience, which is that you're not moving whatsoever. And so they say, yes, you are moving, silly, but you're just moving at such a constant velocity that you don't notice it whatsoever. Now, even if you're in the best Rolls Royce over the best tar, smoothly going, you close your eyes, I can still tell I'm moving, and that's not going 1,000 miles per hour, that's just going 50 or whatever we're talking about here. Even in an elevator, just an elevator going up, I can feel that. I have a really sensitive stomach, so I mean, I can tell and I get sick if I'm doing some sort of motion that's anything on par with what the Earth is supposedly doing. And so isn't that weird that just because it's a perfect constant velocity that my stomach's able to handle that, but just a little bit of a elevator malfunction and then I'm ready to, So these things don't make any sense. They just want to explain away your common sense with these kind of arguments. And like you said, if you were in a helicopter, you should be able to just go up, wait for the ball Earth to spin underneath you and land at your destination. But of course, the atmosphere spins with the ball Earth, so that doesn't happen. But we can prove that that's not the case either, because now we have airplanes which you can go easterly or westerly, and if the Earth and the atmosphere are spinning 1,000 miles per hour east all the time, as they say, then a westbound plane should be, an eastbound plane should never reach its destination. If it was going 500 miles per hour and the Earth is spinning and the atmosphere is spinning 1,000 miles, your destination should come up behind you before you ever reach it, right? And then destinations going the opposite way are going to take far, far longer than they do. You can check flight times, and they're always within a half hour, a couple hours, no matter what direction you're going to or from. But if the Earth was actually spinning at the rate that they say it was, flight times would be totally different.
Well, I don't understand why you're so like, the government can't be trusted.
Interesting that we all buy this and just accept this, even though it's physically and philosophically impossible. We just watch a little CGI image and a little camera trickery. You splice a rocket launch together with something else, and then you think that they're in outer space. But again, if you use your eyes and you watch those rockets, you'll see that they don't go straight up. Every single rocket forms a parabolic curve, just like every amateur rocket, just like any projectile that you would send up. It couldn't just go straight up and keep on going until you go into outer space. It comes right back down. So, but what does NASA tell you when you ask them the question, well, why is there a parabola formed by all of your rockets? Well, that's because it's going to spin around the ball Earth before it reaches escape velocity, and then it will go out into outer space from there.
The universe is under no obligation to make sense to us. It's the observations that matter, even if they conflict with what NASA tells us. We've learned to trust. Pictures are the measure of reality.
So that they fake these zero-G illusions by being in water, by being in zero-G planes, and by being in harnesses in front of a green screen. And that makes us think that it's possible that out there in space You could just be kind of floating around like they show us in the movies. But as far as we'll ever know, as far as you or I would ever know, we go as high as we can in a plane or a balloon or a rocket, and we come right back down. Even the rockets they send up, if you're honest about it, you'll notice that they don't go straight up. All their rockets start a parabolic curve, they start to arc over, and the ones they claim are successful are the ones that go out of view before they come all the way back down. And if anybody asks, why do they always curve over like that? They just say that they're going around the curvature of the ball Earth, and they'll reach escape velocity soon. And at some point, they'll just pop right out of the gravity, and then they'll be floating, which is another problem, because if you were in a vacuum and you were using rocket thrusters or anything to thrust yourself forward, you wouldn't go forward or in any direction you wanted to. You just spin wildly out of control like a gyroscope in 360 degrees in 3 dimensions, spinning wildly. You don't go anywhere that way. So the whole idea of space travel is a big joke. It's all science fiction.
So often you get people who maybe haven't studied science deeply or don't know what science is or how and why it works. They will invoke their own kind of sensory judgment over whether they assess something to be true. They actually use their own senses. I'm one of the world's greatest astrophysicists, and I say shit like that.
So there's things that they call craters, which are holes in the Earth, like a bowl shape, and
Right.
then there's little edges kind of up above the rest of the Earth around them there. So in one way, it looks like it could have been caused based on an impact from above. Though another way it could be is, say, like a gas bubble from below, and that same kind of shape could be the resulting shape from some sort of phenomenon happening from below just as well.
Like a sinkhole.
Like a sinkhole. And if it was from, say, a burning rock from outer space, there should be huge, I mean, the rock itself should still be there if it caused that big of a depression, and there should also be huge chunks of it everywhere. Yet none of these supposed crater sites have anything of the sort. No big ball sitting in a hole, or even gigantic shards that we can still look at. Only, again, little pieces that they claim, oh, this is a meteorite, just like they claim the moon rocks. And same with the craters on the moon. If you look at the moon with your own eyes or with a telescope, there are potch marks of some kind there. But it's a foregone conclusion to say that they are craters formed during meteorite collisions. I mean, this is just an explanation that you've come up with. It's a possible explanation, but there's no physical evidence for that. None of us have ever seen a rock come from space and collide with the Earth, make a huge explosion, and then show us the rock sitting there so that we can verify that, yep, that was a big-ass rock that just came from outer space. It doesn't exist. We don't actually have that physical evidence to prove that such a thing exists. Well, we've got shooting stars. Like I said, stars aren't actual terra firma, so when you see a light shoot from somewhere to somewhere else, it's simply that. It's simply a light shooting. It's not a rock in outer space coming where. And you've got these ones where you can see mostly from Russia, it seems like, from dashboard cams, you'll see these burning balls of something coming, and yeah, they've even crashed windows and something. These, I think, are some sort of military thing that they're shooting to make us believe that meteorites exist, because they're always coming down at an angle like they've been shot from a plane. If meteorites existed and we were on a spinning ball Earth, then meteors should be shooting in every single direction possible, not always from the exact same direction coming down onto the Earth. There should be meteorites that go upwards, and ones that go diagonally upwards, and ones that go horizontal, and every other type of way. But we don't see that. So I'm quite skeptical of meteorites or asteroids or any sort of thing that they claim is up there floating around and comes down here and destroys dinosaurs, their other myth. They like to use their myths in conjunction.
Yeah, Eric doesn't believe in dinosaurs either.
So as far as the Russian ones, I would tend to think those are some sort of military experiment. some sort of weapon or something like this. Because you don't see them all over the world, you just see them there. It seems like it might be something they're working on. And the craters, not sure what those are formed from, but again, not seeing the evidence that they're from rocks falling from the sky. And for shooting stars, they say that those are comets, or that's another one. They say comets or whatever are asteroid rock formations that circle around us every so many years. But if we're spinning around the sun and the sun's spinning around the galaxy and all these motions are happening, why would comets have regular revolutions that we would see in such a cosmology? If the Earth was actually making all of those motions, we shouldn't ever come up across the same comets again. That makes more sense in a geocentric cosmology where everything in the heavens is revolving around us so that it could return at a regular time, like Halley's Comet or something like that.
You know what, Neil? I want to show you something that's actually going to make you think. It's real weird. Conspiracy Hippo, you know that site? You know that we go there all the time on the weekends when we hang out and play Dungeons and Dragons? That's a t-shirt, Jamie. Get onto that.
And gravity is why spherical planets exist in the first place, because it causes everything to tend towards a vortex, and the planets and everything spun into their current shape. That's what they say. And it all came about because of a godless, random, big bang cosmic accident, and through chance evolution of a blind, dumb universe, animals and humans and the diversity and complexity of nature just randomly came into existence from their non-God science explanation that they're trying to get everyone to buy into with this whole heliocentric spinning ball Earth mythos we've been fed for the past 500 years.
Eric, look, I think scientific innovation is very important to us because in our minds, I constantly want a bigger iPhone. It's just part of being a person in the 21st century. Everyone wants a bigger iPhone. And a lot of that comes from, all the innovations, There's a list of stuff NASA has helped humanity with. Come on, Eric. Highway safety, improved radial tires. The amount of things NASA has done for us. You don't understand the insane stress of re-entry. They've figured out all sorts of crazy things, the speed at which you land. They've figured out a bunch of crazy shit, like enriched baby food, purple cordless vacuums, freeze-drying technology. All this comes from space, space food sticks in 2 flavors. Tang? We wouldn't have Tang, Eric. Harvesting solar energy. There's a lot of technology that comes from developing either the space station or the shuttles or a bunch of different things that they've invented, and they continue to innovate these things. You're wasting time, Eric. You're wasting your time. I don't know anything.
Well, they're counting on that. That's why they've got all these huge formulas and calculations for gravity and whatnot that are based on nothing. So, they've got a weight for the ball Earth, all based on their gravity calculations. And you can Wikipedia it, and you'll see pages of, mathematic language that makes no sense to 99.9% of the population. But apparently the math works out, so it's real, right? So it's just another way, just like the CGI images or whatever. Some people are fooled by the images. Some people are fooled by the math. Some people are fooled by, this or that. They've got many different ways to get us in their grips. Like you said, the whole education system is teaching us not to believe our senses.
And by the way, science literacy may be the best kind of scientific inoculation. It trains you, not so much what you know. Yes, you should know how an internal combustion engine works, or what evolution is, or the Big Bang. Sure, but deeper than that, science literacy is the capacity to know how to think about information and how to turn data into information, information into knowledge, and then knowledge perhaps into wisdom. Joe, I gotta tell you, I'm skeptical. I am. And my skeptical, howeverness, my skeptical nature is irrelevant here. Because what matters most to me is that somebody, Eric, is even thinking that way. Without folks like that among us, we might as well just move back to the cave. Because it's people like Eric here. Eric, yeah. Lovely young Eric. It's people like Eric that got us out of the cave in the first place, Joe. And created a tomorrow that previously was only imagined. So, however skeptical I am, it's not even relevant because, excuse me, I just baffed my pants. Grab my hot dog again. Eric really is special. You know, we're talking about a being here whose very existence challenges our own sense of priority in the universe. That's a beautiful thing.